Welcome back. This time I'd like to talk about something that I call sort of like what is like a thought logic in a way. It's basically the idea is this from that or this with that. There are two primary thought processes or mindsets people use on a very basic level. Those are this from that and this with that. This from that seems to be the most common of the two. In a person's belief system, it is the analogy of up from down, right from left, forward from reverse, rich from poor, light from dark, good from evil, them from us. See, I'm reading from a Tumblr article I posted up on the thing a while back. And what I really want to get across to you is kind of like why it is human beings, the state of sort of like the state of enlightenment, common enlightenment among all of you all, why it is that you're all still in the dark when it comes to like knowing the truth of the relationship between us and God. Why you're still thinking this from that, you see. That's what pulls you down into the ideas of prejudice, the emotions of insecurity and fear, and basically what is the cause of your fear? This from that. The thought logic of this from that. You see, this from that is what basically renders a closed mind. If you're going to constantly judge everything in relation to you, like, do I like this or do I not like it? Do I like this person or do I hate them? You know? Do I agree with this idea or do I not? You see, as we are self-aware, we put that filter, well, whatever our concept of self-awareness is. If it's a true concept, like you have connected with the true you, the real individual God created that is your true heart, and you're living as that, then chances are you're not going to think this from that. You're going to think this with that in the way that you approach life and the way that you think. Because this with that is the first step to an open mind. And an open mind is what is necessary to achieve true enlightenment, if that's even a concern. So, in modern times, it's kind of like it's acceptable versus non-acceptable. And it's amazing how wrapped around the axle we are on that. You are forced into this mindset from the start, being taught right from wrong, good from evil, and on it goes. It is separation and categorization, achieving your isolation, your own isolation. See, you basically, this from that thought logic is what has crippled the human mind of a lot of people. A person's ability to think and see through the deception in order to arrive at the truth. That, to achieve that kind of knowledge, that kind of wisdom, you're going to have to think this with that. You're going to have to open your mind. And if you're going to think this from that, then you're going to own prejudice, basically. That's what really puts it to you, is prejudice. You'd be surprised how common that is. I mean, in the American society, there is a lot of hate. There is a lot of prejudice, because there is a lot of judgment, because there is a lot of this from that thinking going on. And unfortunately, that is the state of ignorance. I can tell clearly who is living in ignorance and who has the potential to achieve enlightenment by the way that you think. And if you think this from that, then you shall be in the darkness of pagan ignorance. If you can think this with that, and instead of judging a person in a situation, you get to know them a little better in that situation, so that you can discover the truth of that situation. And in that, embrace their humanity. But if you're going to judge them, then you're going to basically be hostile to them, because that is what is the conclusion of judgment, because that seems to be the American cultural value. The values of hate, the values of prejudice, the values of this from that. Don't want to let none of them difference people in here, because differences scare us, because we live in this from that thought logic. And that is why you believe in evil. See now, God has shown me that as this is a process of creation, there is no antithetical will to His will here in this place. Consider this. God is like light to the dark. Where in this universe does the substance of light actively oppose the substance of dark? Guess what? It doesn't. And from that you can then infer that there is no antithetical will to the will of God here in this place. What there is there is the light of awareness as represented by the light of awareness of consciousness as represented by the will of God, as it shines into the darkness of unawareness. And that is the true relationship that there is. It is not oppositional. There is no antithesis to God's will. There is no evil. There is no devil. There is no hell. All that is a fabrication of the 10th century Christian church in order to achieve a state of governance over humankind. To scare you, just like the Republicans do with their endless obsession of terrorism, to the point to where now all the brown people in the world can't let them in here because they're so different. That the American conservative values find that to be unacceptable. Difference. Because they are obsessed with this from that. And you have that in religion. Because what you have in religion is you have this concept of evil, this idea that God is somehow so weak in His state of divinity that He needs humankind to stand on one side of the scale. If that was ever the truth, then I would willingly go into the darkness of nothing. I would return to the malaise of non-consciousness. Willingly. So, you see, if you can look at a yin-yang and see a circle first, and then two distinct shapes second, chances are you're already thinking this with that. If the first thing you see is two distinct shapes, then the circle, or perhaps you don't even see one, then you're thinking this from that. See, as a result of my state of enlightenment, my true state of equanimity, when God revealed the true connection that He has with all of us, in that state, that enlightenment changed my thought process to this with that. And that's the kind of state that, like Siddhartha had to be in when he achieved his true state of equanimity. Was he had to already be thinking this with that. Because that is the key to enlightenment, is an open mind. And if you think this with that, then you're going to want to seek out, through every method possible, empathy and everything, knowledge and awareness, so that you can then know the real truth. You're not going to know truth by hating people, by hating the world, because of the fact that they're different, because you're judging, because you're thinking this from that. So I pray that God somehow moves among you all and changes your thought process to where you can think this with that, because that is the only way that you're not going to be lost in the darkness of pagan ignorance, afraid of what lies beyond, upon the plane of death. And maybe that will be God's footprint. Maybe that will be how I can see him move among people in this world, is where he does start to change people in that way, in that fundamental basic way, to where you all do think this with that, and in that aspect perhaps achieve the potential for enlightenment, to where the world then becomes less judgmental, less hostile, less combative, less this from that. Well, that's all for now. See you next time.